Love Came Down. The story of Sonny, Wisnik, Marcus, a doctor, Queen Iris, new parents, and God, by Art Edwards. Narrated by Don Tawney. Dedicated in general to the child spirits within us all, and in particular to Suzanne, Amy, Larry, Molly, Matilda, Owen, Charlie, and Joyce. When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? William Blake, The Tiger. Chapter 1. Long ago and not so very far away. Once upon a time, God was in heaven, and not much was right with the world. In short, there was an aching gap between heaven and earth. There were gang wars between the Romans and anybody who got in their way. Several rulers had the mistaken impression that they were gods, and in fact, there wasn't very much good news anywhere. Despite God's best efforts to set people free, most still suffered because of pirates, politicians, plagues, magicians, money, and other assorted bullies. God mulled things over for an eternity and always tried to help from heaven, but the gap between heaven and earth was so great that not even God had any success trying to close it. Then God had a magnificent idea. If humans could feel and know, just for an instant, what heaven was like, that would close the gap between heaven and earth. And even if people couldn't set everything right, if they had a piece of heaven on the inside, they could always know peace, no matter what happened on the outside. God knew that one way to do this would be to bring everyone to heaven. But that wasn't possible because bodies weren't allowed in heaven, only spirits. So, God thought out loud, "Why not send some spirits to earth? Have them share what heaven is like. Close the gap between heaven and earth and help people find peace on the inside." With this thought, God smiled a smile that warmed the whole universe. But, unfortunately, there were still two details to iron out. Which spirits would go to earth, and where would God find bodies for them? For you see, it was a rule that spirits couldn't stay on earth any longer than it took a bush to burn or a rainbow to disappear, unless they were in a body. So God thought and pondered and considered and cogitated. Thunder roared, lightning flashed, and the wind moaned like 100 hurricanes in a cypress swamp. All the spirits of heaven knew something was up and scurried for cover. Eventually, the commotion stopped. God had solved the problem. Chapter 2. The Solution. Or not. Of all the spirits who could be sent to earth, God realized the two that human beings needed most, and the ones who would do the best job, were none other than two child spirits. Their God-given names were Wisdom and Compassion, but everyone called them Wisnik and Sonny. Wisnik was the smartest spirit in heaven, next to God, of course. She was always solving problems and puzzles that none of the other spirits could figure out. Sonny was called Sonny because he was orange-yellow like the sun. And whenever he was around the other spirits, he made them feel warm and cozy. Sonny had the knack of always knowing what others were feeling, and he always wanted to help, even if he didn't always know what to do. God was pleased with these choices, and in a still small voice, called Wisnik and Sonny over to explain about sending them to earth and giving them bodies. Of course, God was excited about this, but Wisnik and Sonny were hopping mad. Wisnik shouted at God, "Go to earth forever? Earth's no fun. It's dull. People there are so stupid. They don't know half the things I know, and most of them are either slaves or bullies," Wisnik continued. "No, thank you. I don't want anything to do with Earth. Besides, if I had a body, I might get captured by a pirate or even killed, and there's no forever in that. You must think I'm pretty dumb if you think I'd want to go to Earth." "That's right," echoed Sonny. "Having a body is the worst part. That would cramp my style. Bodies can't float like dandelions. Bodies can't swim inside a raindrop or ride a rainbow. Bodies can't dance between the stars or make snowflakes or anything. Sonny went on. Bodies are fragile. They scrape knees and break arms. When they're cut, they bleed all over. I don't want any part of that. I like being a spirit just fine. God wasn't surprised that Wisnik and Sonny didn't like the idea. Everything they said was true. God knew, being God and all, that Wisnik and Sonny could be forced to go to Earth, but God also knew it would be much better if they went because they wanted to. So God didn't argue, but simply said, Listen, I know you don't like the idea of having a body, but just as a favor to me, let's catch the next rainbow to Earth. I give you my word that will only stay as long as the rainbow lasts. If you don't discover things you can do on Earth that you can't do in heaven, and if you're not convinced that having a body could be okay, then we'll go right back to heaven, and I'll never bring up the subject again. That sounded logical to Wisnik, and Sonny felt God's heart was in the right place. So they rode a rainbow to Earth. Neither of them believed for a nanosecond that they would stay any longer than it took for the rainbow to disappear. Sonny and Wisnik wanted absolutely nothing to do with bodies. No way, no how, not now, not ever. But they got on the rainbow because they had promised God to give Earth a try. Chapter 3. Marcus and the Lamb. When they reached the rainbow's end, they landed in a pasture overflowing with woolly sheep and woollier shepherds. Over in one corner of the field, a small boy seemed very upset. A lamb was lying in a funny way near to the boy's feet. Next to the lamb and the boy was a big man. Sonny floated over to listen in and heard the big man saying, I know this is your favorite lamb, Marcus, but he's broken his leg, and there's nothing we can do for him but put him out of his misery. At this bad news, the little boy started to cry big alligator tears, and Sonny, who knew exactly how the little boy felt, began to lose his orange-yellow color and got black blotches all over. This always happened when he was sad and couldn't help. Sonny sobbed, What can we do for the boy or the lamb? But before God could answer, Wisnik interrupted. I bet I could figure this out if I put my mind to it. Fixing a broken leg isn't nearly as difficult a problem to solve as some of the ones I've worked on in heaven. Sonny was confused. Well, then, why don't you help? Wisnik looked down and snorted. Because we're not going to be around long enough, that's why. Besides, I only work on problems that are a real challenge. When Sonny heard that, his black blotches began to turn red, which they only did when he was angry. So God took executive action. Chapter 4. Moving on. Queen Iris. God conjured a southbound breeze and took them out of the pasture. They landed in a small room that was part of a grand palace. The room had writing on all the walls. Parchment covered the floor like confetti. The only furniture was an overstuffed bookcase cradling rolls of scrolls. Next to the desk sat a blue-robed queen with a bejeweled crown. But she didn't act like a queen. She didn't seem to notice the royal doctor next to her, who paced around and around, scribbling on some papyrus. All the while the doctor kept muttering, There's got to be an answer, but I've read every single scroll and don't have a clue. Queen Iris has been like this ever since her son died. She just stares straight ahead. He sighed. She's just going to shrivel up and die. There has to be a logical explanation and a cure, and I'm going to find them. I'm not the wisest doctor in the kingdom for nothing. As he kept talking to himself, Wisnik edged closer, looked at the scrolls, and started scribbling in his mind. She did calculation upon calculation. She did quadratic equations in multi-dimensional space, but nothing computed. Wisnik kept at it because there was nothing she liked better than solving problems, and she'd never found one she couldn't solve. So Sonny and God settled back, watching Wisnik and the royal doctor try to figure out how to help Queen Iris. They scribbled and scrabbled and scrabbled and scribbled, but no one seemed to be making any progress. At last, Sonny couldn't stand it any longer, and he started to laugh. "Silly Wisnick, you spend all your time with numbers, equations, and musty old scrolls. All the answers aren't there, you know." "Okay, wise guy," yelled Wisnick. "What is the answer?" Sonny replied softly. "The answer here is very simple. You have to feel what Queen Iris feels." Sonny went on. "Once you feel that, you'll know where she hurts and how she hurts. When you know that, you can help. It's called empathy." Wisnick was excited. "Empathy? I've never heard of that before. What's the recipe? Where can I get it? How long does it take to make? Do I have to bake it, shake it, or stir it to get it to work?" "Oh, Wisnick," shrugged Sonny. "For someone who's supposed to be so smart, sometimes you're denser than a black hole." Chapter 5. Back to Heaven, or Not. At this point, fearing the child spirits were headed for a classic battle, God broke in. "Now that you see how you are needed by the Lamb, the Shepherd, Marcus, the Doctor, and Queen Iris, do either of you want to find a body and stay? If not, we'd better get going. The rainbow is almost gone." Both spirits shuffled a bit, and then Sonny spoke up. "I'd like to help the Lamb and make Marcus happy, but I don't know how to do it. If I stayed here, I'm afraid I'd be black and blotchy all the time." For once, Wisnick agreed. "Let the doctor figure it out. I just don't understand the empathy thing." Since neither child spirit would stay, God wept. But since God was a God of the Word, Sonny and Wisnick were free to go. God said there was time for a last look around and reminded them to watch for the disappearing rainbow so they could return to heaven. Sonny floated to the pasture for a last look at the Lamb and Marcus. Wisnick stayed with the doctor to see if he could whip up a batch of empathy for Queen Iris. God went back to the rainbow in deep despair, because if neither Wisnick nor Sonny stayed, there would be no way to close the gap between heaven and earth and help people find peace on the inside. Before long, the rainbow began to fade, and God called for Sonny and Wisnick. They began speeding toward each other from opposite directions, headed for the rainbow's center, and each other. In that instant, they began to race. They each wanted to be the first to get back to heaven. As they got closer and closer, they moved faster and faster. They broke the sound barrier, the speed of light limit, the quantum entanglement conundrum, and the teleportation mystery. With only a few miles to go, Wisnick was a little bit ahead. Seeing this, Sonny gave a last burst of speed. That's when it happened. Sonny and Wisnick, both moving faster than simultaneous transference and warp speed, broke the spirit barrier. They reached the rainbow in the same microsecond and realized they couldn't stop. They collided, head on and heart on. There was a crash that nearly fused the universe. Sonny and Wisnick disappeared in a shower of sparks. There was a ring like a great gong. Stars flamed to life. New universes boiled. And a tremendous heavenquake shook all 13 dimensions of the cosmos. The two spirits mixed like 1,000 bottles of paint, and colors splashed from the ends of the earth to the tip of heaven. Chapter 6. A New Spirit. Then, after the wind died down and the colors stopped mixing, God looked and saw one spirit standing at the foot of the rainbow. But it wasn't Sonny. So God looked again, but it wasn't Wisnick. It was a new spirit, a different spirit, part Sonny and part Wisnick. God brought the rainbow back so the new creature could stay a little longer. Then they went to see the shepherds. Like Sonny, the new spirit wanted to help Marcus and the lamb more than anything else. The new spirit also had Wisnick's knowledge and knew how to fix the lamb's leg by making a splint. But there was a severe and unsolvable problem. Spirits don't have hands. And that's when the new spirit felt and understood the problem. Without a body, there was no way to help Marcus or the lamb. Next, God took the new spirit back to the room with Queen Iris and the royal doctor. Like Wisnik, the new spirit wanted to solve the problem, but couldn't. But in an instant, the spirit knew, as Sonny knew all along, where Queen Iris hurt and wanted to hug her. But alas, spirits have no arms. The new spirit wanted to tell the doctor the answer, but spirits can't talk to people, and the doctor couldn't hear a spirit think. That's when the new child spirit asked permission to stay on earth, even if having a body would be frustrating sometimes. Then God smiled a smile that warmed the universe and named the new child spirit Love. Chapter 7. Love Came Down. And on a night most strange and wonderful, God sent the child spirit Love to a far-flung corner of the earth. Once there, Love became one with a bit of a baby lying in a manger inside a barn behind a one-star hotel. And a wise man came to worship the love that is greater than wisdom in the hope that it could heal his queen. And it did. And the little boy came with a lamb to worship the love that knew how to turn empathy into action by building a splint that helped the lamb heal. In a way, all the world was brought together around the manger with Mary and Joseph, who, as is true for all new parents, had just been introduced to a special kind of love. That night, a rainbow cradled the earth, and all the spirits of God sang. God's new spirit had found a body and become flesh, so that all bodies everywhere could discover God's spirit. This night, when heaven came to earth, is called Christmas, and the name of God's Spirit alive on earth in the flesh is Jesus Christ, Son of God, Wisdom from on high, Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Prince of Peace, Ulama, Rabbi, Enlightened One, Teacher, Sensei, Swami, and a bunch of other holy names, or Love for short. This is how love found a body and came down at Christmas, so that the gap between heaven and earth could be closed and people could find peace on the inside. The end, and the beginning without end.